Have you ever wondered what would drive a desperate wild animal to seek human help? This incredible story from the depths of Washington's wilderness will challenge everything you thought you knew about animal intelligence and survival. What happened at Echo Station that winter morning would forever change how we understand the connection between humans and wildlife. The ancient evergreens of Glacier Peak Wilderness stood silent in the pre-dawn darkness as Sarah Thompson began her morning patrol. Fresh snow dusted the ground, the first of the season, transforming the familiar landscape into something ethereal and new. After 2 years as a ranger at Echo Station, Sarah had learned to read the forest's subtle moods, and something about this morning felt different. The usual chorus of early birds was absent, replaced by an unsettling stillness that made the crunch of snow beneath her boots sound almost intrusive. Sarah adjusted her Forest Service jacket, grateful for its warmth against the biting cold. The weather report had predicted temperatures near freezing, but the raw chill in the air suggested it was even colder. Her breath formed delicate clouds. In the beam of her flashlight as she made her way along the ridge trail, her mind drifting to the wildlife reports she'd reviewed the previous evening. Winter had come early this year, catching many animals off guard. Chief Ranger Rodriguez had warned all personnel to be especially vigilant for unusual animal behavior as they struggled to adapt to the sudden change. The first hints of dawn were just beginning to paint the eastern sky when Sarah noticed something odd about the tracks in the fresh snow. Her flashlight beam revealed a set of large paw prints heading directly toward Echo Station. Bear tracks, but not the usual meandering pattern of a foraging animal. These tracks were purposeful, direct, as if the bear had been making a beeline for the station. Even more unusual, they showed signs of weakness in their gait, with occasional drag marks suggesting the animal was struggling to walk. Sarah's hand instinctively moved to her radio as she followed the tracks with her light. 2 years of ranger training screamed at her to report any unusual bear activity immediately, but something made her hesitate. The tracks told a story that didn't fit any of her training scenarios. They spoke of desperation, of an animal moving with deliberate intent rather than natural instinct. The snow began falling more heavily now, large flakes catching the beam of her flashlight like falling stars. Sarah knew she needed to make a decision quickly before the weather obscured the tracks completely. Her fellow ranger, David Chen, would be starting his shift soon, and together they could better assess whatever situation was unfolding. But as she reached for her radio again, a sound cut through the pre-dawn silence that made her blood run cold. It wasn't the aggressive growl she'd been trained to watch out for, nor was it the typical vocalizations she'd learned to recognize during her wildlife management courses. This sound carried something she'd never heard in a wild animal before, a note of pure desperation, the kind of sound that transcends species barriers and speaks directly to the heart. The bear emerged from the shadows like a ghost, its massive form made somehow less imposing by its obvious distress. Sarah's training kicked in automatically as she established a safe distance, but what she saw stopped her in her tracks. The bear was severely undernourished, its thick winter coat hanging loose on its frame. But that wasn't what caught her attention. Around its neck was something that shouldn't be there. The remains of what appeared to be a heavy-duty wire snare, partially embedded in its flesh. Sarah's mind raced through her options as she maintained her position. Standard protocol for injured wildlife was clear: maintain distance, call for backup, wait for the wildlife response team. But the bear's behavior defied everything she'd learned about wildlife encounters. Instead of showing aggression or fear, it kept its distance while maintaining eye contact, swaying slightly as if struggling to stay upright. The radio at her hip crackled to life, making both Sarah and the bear start. Echo 7, this is base. Check-in time over. Chief Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension, but Sarah found herself frozen, unable to look away from the bear's eyes. In them, she saw something that would haunt her forever, an intelligence and desperation that seemed almost human. The bear took another struggling step forward, then did something that defied every natural law Sarah had ever learned. It slowly, deliberately lay down in the snow, exposing its injured neck while keeping its gaze locked on her. The message was unmistakable. It was asking for help. Sarah's hand moved to her radio, but instead of calling in the situation, she found herself speaking quietly to the bear. "I see you. I see what happened to you. We're going to help." The animal's ears twitched at the sound of her voice, but it remained still, watching her with those impossibly knowing eyes. What followed would become a testament to the extraordinary bonds possible between humans and wildlife. Sarah's call to base set in motion a rescue operation unlike any echo station had seen before. Within hours, wildlife specialist Dr. Emily Parker had arrived with her team, amazed by the bear's continued calm demeanor despite its obvious suffering. The snare, they discovered, was part of a larger story. It matched others found in a series of illegal trapping sites across the Canadian border. The bear had likely been caught weeks ago, but had managed to break free with the snare still attached. Unable to hunt effectively and growing weaker by the day, it had somehow made the incredible decision to seek human help. As Dr. Parker worked to sedate and treat the bear, she noted something remarkable. "In all my years of wildlife medicine, I've never seen anything like this," she would later write in her report. This animal didn't just randomly stumble into human territory. It deliberately sought out our station, following our access road, and specifically approached a uniformed ranger. This suggests a level of reasoning we didn't think possible in wild animals. The operation to remove the snare was delicate and time-consuming. The wire had begun to embed itself in the bear's flesh, requiring careful surgical extraction. Throughout the procedure, the bear's vital signs remained surprisingly stable, as if it somehow understood that the pain it was experiencing was necessary for its survival. What made the story even more extraordinary was what they discovered. During the bear's treatment, hidden beneath its winter coat were old scars that told a remarkable tale. This bear had previously been rescued as a cub by rangers in the same district, part of a rehabilitation program after its mother had been killed by poachers. It had spent 6 months at a wildlife sanctuary before being released back into the wild. The implications were staggering. This bear had not only remembered its positive interactions with humans from years ago, but had made the conscious decision to seek out similar help when in desperate need. It challenged everything wildlife experts thought they knew about animal intelligence and memory. But the story doesn't end there. The evidence collected from the snare led investigators to uncover a sophisticated poaching operation spanning the Washington-Canadian border. The bear's journey had inadvertently helped expose a wildlife trafficking ring that had been operating in the area for years. Recovery took weeks, during which the bear became something of a legend among the staff at Echo Station. They named her Hope, though Dr. Parker was quick to remind everyone that she would eventually need to return to the wild. Yet even during her rehabilitation, she displayed levels of intelligence that continued to amaze the wildlife team. When the day finally came for Hope's release, the weather had turned mild, and the first hints of spring were touching the wilderness. She had regained her strength, her coat now glossy and full, all traces of the snare removed except for a small scar that would forever remind her of her extraordinary journey. Dr. Parker and Sarah stood watching as Hope took her first steps back into the wild. The bear paused at the edge of the tree line, turning to look back at the humans who had helped her. In that moment, Sarah saw again that same intelligence in her eyes, but this time without the desperation. Hope held there, Gaze for a long moment before disappearing into the forest, leaving behind a story that would change how we understand wildlife forever. The lessons learned from Hope's story reached far beyond Echo Station. Her case became the subject of several wildlife behavior studies, challenging long-held beliefs about animal intelligence and decision-making. The evidence she helped uncover led to the arrest of multiple poaching rings and the strengthening of cross-border wildlife protection measures. For Sarah Thompson, that snowy morning marked the beginning of a deeper understanding of the complex relationships between humans and wildlife. "We often think we know everything about wild animals," she would later say during a wildlife conference. But Hope showed us that there's so much more to learn. These creatures are capable of reasoning and trust that we're only beginning to understand. Today, Hope still roams the wilderness around Glacier Peak. Rangers occasionally spot her, always keeping a respectful distance, but she shows no fear of their presence. She's become living proof that the divide between humans and wildlife might not be as wide as we once thought. If you've been moved by Hope's incredible journey of survival and trust, preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Make sure to subscribe for more extraordinary wildlife stories that challenge our understanding of the natural world. Together, we can help protect these remarkable creatures and the wilderness they call home. Remember, every wild animal has a story to tell. Sometimes we just need to learn how to listen. Press that subscribe button now to never miss another amazing wildlife story that will touch your heart and change how you see the world around us. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. Nature's greatest mysteries and most touching moments are waiting to be discovered. Dawn broke over Echo Station with an otherworldly glow, the sun's rays filtering through dense clouds and falling snow. Sarah Thompson stood at the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the rehabilitation enclosure where Hope, the injured bear they had rescued weeks ago, was showing remarkable signs of recovery. The morning's silence was broken only by the soft whir of Dr. Emily Parker's drone as she conducted her daily behavioral monitoring. The past month had transformed Echo Station from a quiet ranger outpost into a hub of scientific discovery. Wildlife specialists from across the country had gathered to study Hope's unprecedented behavior, drawn by reports of an animal that had not only sought human help, but displayed problem-solving abilities that challenged conventional understanding of wildlife intelligence. Dr. Parker's latest findings had sent ripples through the scientific community. Hope wasn't just recovering physically. She was actively engaging with the rehabilitation team in ways that suggested deep cognitive processing. She had learned to respond to specific signals, understood basic medical treatment routines, and, most remarkably, showed signs of trying to communicate with her caregivers. Chief Ranger Rodriguez had initially been skeptical of Sarah's report about that first encounter. "Animals don't seek out humans for help," he had said. But as evidence mounted, even he had to admit they were witnessing something extraordinary. The security cameras had captured Hope's deliberate approach to the station that morning, showing how she had carefully avoided triggering motion sensors and chosen the most direct path to where Sarah would be starting her patrol. The investigation into the snare that had injured Hope had opened a Pandora's box of wildlife crimes. Conservation Officer Tom Wilson had traced the distinctive wire pattern to a notorious poaching syndicate operating out of British Columbia. The sophistication of their operation was staggering. They had been using advanced tracking technology to target specific animals, particularly those showing higher intelligence that made them harder to trap. Sarah's attention was drawn to movement in the enclosure. Hope had approached the observation window, her dark eyes focusing intently on the team gathered there. Dr. Parker immediately began recording, noting how the bear's behavior changed when she recognized specific individuals. She's not just responding to uniforms anymore, Dr. Parker observed. She's identifying individual humans and adjusting her behavior accordingly. The morning's routine health check revealed another surprise. Hope had begun using the enrichment tools in ways they hadn't anticipated. The puzzle feeders, designed to keep captive animals mentally stimulated, were being solved in record time. More intriguingly, she appeared to be teaching other rehabilitating bears how to use them, displaying a level of social learning that challenged existing theories about ursine intelligence. As Sarah reviewed the morning's footage with Dr. Parker, they noticed something they had missed during the live observation. Hope wasn't just solving the puzzles, she was improving upon them, finding more efficient ways to access the food rewards. This goes beyond simple trial and error, Dr. Parker explained, her voice filled with excitement. She's demonstrating abstract problem-solving abilities we previously thought impossible in non-primate species. The implications of Hope's case reached far beyond Echo Station. The evidence collected from her rescue had already led to the arrest of 3 major players in the wildlife trafficking network. Conservation Officer Wilson's team had uncovered documents suggesting the poachers had been specifically targeting bears that showed signs of higher intelligence, believing they would fetch higher prices in the illegal exotic pet trade. The discovery painted a disturbing picture of evolution in action. The very intelligence that made some animals harder to trap was making them more valuable targets. Hope's case had inadvertently exposed a dark intersection of wildlife crime and animal cognition that nobody had anticipated. As winter deepened, around Echo Station, the rehabilitation team faced a new challenge. Hope's physical wounds had healed, but her behavior suggested she was processing her traumatic experiences in ways that resembled human psychological recovery. She showed clear signs of remembering and reacting to triggers associated with her injury, yet she maintained her trust in the human caregivers. Dr. Parker's latest paper, still in peer review, proposed a revolutionary hypothesis. She suggested that some wild animals, particularly those with complex social structures like bears, might possess emotional intelligence that rivaled that of great apes. Hope's case provided compelling evidence: her ability to distinguish between threatening and helpful humans, her capacity for trauma recovery, and her apparent desire to maintain social bonds with her caregivers all pointed to sophisticated, emotional processing. The station's daily routine had evolved to accommodate the growing research project. Sarah found herself splitting her time between regular ranger duties and assisting Dr. Parker's team with their observations. Each day brought new insights into Hope's capabilities, challenging everything they thought they knew about wildlife behavior. One morning, as heavy snow blanketed the station, they witnessed something extraordinary. Hope had been watching the team clearing snow from the observation platforms when she began mimicking their sweeping motions with a fallen branch. The behavior lasted only moments, but it was captured on video, providing compelling evidence of observational learning and tool use, behaviors rarely documented in wild bears. The incident sparked intense debate among the researchers. Was this a unique case of an exceptionally intelligent animal, or were they seeing capabilities that existed in many wild creatures but had gone unnoticed? The question led to a broader examination of wildlife rehabilitation practices across North America. As news of Hope's case spread, Echo Station began receiving reports from other wildlife centers describing similar, if less dramatic, instances of intelligent behavior in rescued animals. A pattern emerged, suggesting that animals who had positive interactions with humans during rehabilitation might be more likely to seek human help in future crises. The implications for wildlife conservation were profound. If animals could learn to distinguish between helpful and harmful human encounters, it opened new possibilities for coexistence in areas where human and wildlife territories overlapped. Hope's story was becoming a catalyst for rethinking human-wildlife relationships. Chief Rodriguez had initially worried about the attention the case was attracting, but the research findings were too significant to ignore. Echo Station was becoming a model for a new approach to wildlife rehabilitation, one that recognized and worked with animals' cognitive abilities rather than treating them as purely instinct-driven creatures. The winter months brought new challenges as more injured wildlife sought refuge near the station. Whether drawn by Hope's presence or simply seeking shelter from the harsh weather, other animals began showing up at the perimeter. Each new arrival was carefully documented, contributing to a growing database of wildlife behavior patterns. Sarah's role had evolved far beyond her regular ranger duties. Her unique bond with Hope and her first-hand experience of that first extraordinary encounter made her observations particularly valuable to the research team. She spent hours documenting subtle changes in Hope's behavior, noting how the bear's interactions with humans and other animals continued to defy conventional wisdom. As spring approached, the team faced a bittersweet milestone. Hope's rehabilitation was complete, and soon they would need to release her back into the wild. The decision sparked intense debate among the staff. While everyone agreed that release was the right choice, there were concerns about how Hope would readjust to wildlife after months of close human contact. Dr. Parker designed a gradual release program, incorporating elements never before tried in bear rehabilitation. They would maintain minimal monitoring of Hope post-release, not just for her safety, but to gather crucial data about how an animal with her unique experiences would reintegrate into the wild population. The day before the planned release, Sarah spent extra time at the observation window. Hope was more active than usual, seemingly aware that change was coming. She moved with the confident grace of a fully recovered animal, but her behavior still showed the remarkable intelligence that had made her case so extraordinary. That evening, as the team made final preparations for the release, Sarah reviewed her notes from the past months. The experience had transformed not just Hope, but everyone involved in her rehabilitation. They had witnessed something that challenged the fundamental assumptions about the divide between humans and wildlife. A young bear, possibly one of Hope's offspring, was displaying behavior that mirrored its mother's problem-solving abilities. The cub had figured out how to access natural food sources using techniques that showed clear signs of learned behavior rather than instinct. The discovery sparked intense debate among the research team. Were they witnessing the passing of learned behaviors from parent to offspring? The implications for understanding wildlife intelligence were staggering. If animals could not only learn complex behaviors, but teach them to their young, it suggested a level of cognitive sophistication that demanded a complete re-evaluation of wildlife management practices. Echo Station's success had not gone unnoticed by the academic world. Universities began offering internships for students to study at the station, bringing fresh perspectives and new questions to their research. The intersection of traditional ranger knowledge with academic research created a unique environment for understanding wildlife behavior. Sarah found herself spending evenings in the new research library, comparing her field notes with historical records. Patterns began to emerge, instances of intelligent animal behavior that had been dismissed or overlooked in the past because they didn't fit with conventional understanding. The history of human-wildlife interaction was being rewritten, one discovery at a time. The summer heat brought increased tourist activity to the wilderness area, presenting new challenges for the research team. They had to balance their scientific work with the responsibility of protecting both wildlife and visitors. Sarah developed new guidelines for tour operators, teaching them to recognize and respect signs of animal intelligence while maintaining safe distances. Dr. Parker's team made a breakthrough in their understanding of wildlife communication. They discovered that animals around Echo Station had developed sophisticated ways of conveying information about human activities to each other. Different species seemed to share a common understanding of which human behaviors signaled danger and which indicated research activities. The station's reputation grew, attracting attention from wildlife filmmakers and documentarians. Sarah found herself explaining their work to camera crews, helping them capture the subtle signs of animal intelligence that might otherwise go unnoticed. Each documentary helped spread awareness of their discoveries, building public support for more sophisticated approaches to wildlife conservation. As summer progressed, the team began preparing for their first International Wildlife Intelligence Symposium. Echo Station would host researchers from around the world, sharing their findings and developing new protocols for studying and protecting intelligent wildlife. The small ranger station had become a beacon of innovation in wildlife science. The preparation for the symposium led to new discoveries in their archived data. Reviewing footage from the past year, they identified patterns of behavior that suggested animals were actively adapting to human research activities. Some species had developed sophisticated strategies for participating in research while maintaining their wild nature, showing an understanding of the scientific process that amazed even the most experienced researchers. One particular case caught Sarah's attention. A family of ravens had begun acting as unofficial assistants to the research team, their behavior suggesting they understood the purpose of the observation blinds and camera equipment. The birds would alert researchers to interesting wildlife activity and even appeared to help maintain clear lines of sight to important areas by removing branches that blocked camera views. The symposium brought unexpected validation of their work. Researchers from other regions shared similar observations, confirming that Echo Station's discoveries were part of a global pattern of emerging understanding about animal intelligence. The isolation of their wilderness location had allowed them to document these behaviors in their purest form, untainted by urban development or excessive human interference. Chief Rodriguez, once skeptical of their more radical theories, had become one of their strongest advocates. His years of experience provided crucial context for their research, helping bridge the gap between traditional wildlife management and their new understanding of animal intelligence. His support helped convince other ranger stations to adopt their protocols, expanding the scope of their research. As the summer days grew shorter, Echo Station's influence continued to grow. Their research had implications beyond wildlife management, touching on fundamental questions about consciousness, intelligence, and the relationship between humans and the natural world. Each new discovery added depth to their understanding of the extraordinary capabilities of wild animals. Dr. Parker's team began developing new technologies specifically designed for studying wildlife intelligence. Their equipment needed to be sophisticated enough to document complex behaviors while remaining unobtrusive enough to avoid influencing natural patterns. The challenge pushed the boundaries of wildlife research technology, leading to innovations that would benefit field research worldwide. Sarah found herself increasingly focused on the educational aspects of their work. She developed programs to help visitors understand and appreciate the intelligence of the animals they encountered. The goal was to foster a deeper respect for wildlife, moving beyond simple appreciation of their physical beauty to understanding their cognitive capabilities. The station's medical facility continued to evolve, incorporating new insights about animal intelligence into their treatment protocols. They discovered that allowing injured animals to problem solve during their recovery improved their chances of survival after release. The technique was particularly successful with species that showed higher levels of cognitive function. As autumn approached, bringing the first hints of color to the wilderness, Echo Station prepared for new challenges. The changing seasons would test their theories about wildlife intelligence in new ways as animals adapted to seasonal changes and prepared for winter. Each day brought new opportunities to understand the remarkable capabilities of the creatures they studied. The legacy of Hope's extraordinary journey continued to influence their work. Her story had opened their eyes to possibilities they had never considered, leading to discoveries that changed how they viewed wildlife. The desperate bear who had sought human help had become a symbol of the hidden depths of animal intelligence, waiting to be understood by those willing to look beyond conventional wisdom. Echo Station stood as a testament to the power of observation and open-mindedness in scientific discovery. Their work challenged traditional boundaries between humans and wildlife, suggesting that the intelligence of wild animals was far more sophisticated than anyone had imagined. As they prepared for another season of research, the team remained committed to uncovering new insights into the remarkable capabilities of the creatures who shared their wilderness home. Autumn painted the Glacier Peak Wilderness in vibrant hues of gold and crimson as Echo Station entered a new phase of discovery. The crisp mountain air carried the scent of pine and approaching winter, stirring memories of that fateful morning when a desperate bear had changed their understanding of wildlife forever. Sarah Thompson stood at her familiar observation post, watching the sunrise illuminate the valley below, her experienced eyes catching subtle movements in the forest that once would have gone unnoticed. The transformation of Echo Station continued to evolve in unexpected ways. What had begun as a simple ranger outpost had become an intricate network of research facilities, each carefully designed to blend with the natural environment. The original cabin now served as the heart of a sophisticated wildlife intelligence study center, while sustainable observation posts dotted the surrounding wilderness like silent sentinels. Dr. Emily Parker's latest research had taken a fascinating turn. Through careful observation and data collection, her team had identified what they called intelligence corridors, natural pathways through the wilderness where animals displayed heightened problem-solving abilities and sophisticated social behaviors. These corridors, they discovered, often coincided with ancient animal migration routes, suggesting a deep connection between traditional wildlife patterns and emerging cognitive capabilities. The autumn bringing new visitors to Echo Station, not just researchers and academics, but indigenous elders from local tribes who shared generations of knowledge about animal intelligence. Their stories of wildlife behavior, once dismissed as folklore by the scientific community, now found validation in the station's research data. The intersection of traditional wisdom and modern science opened new avenues for understanding wildlife. Cognition. Sarah's role had evolved beyond her original duties, becoming what Dr. Parker called a cognitive ranger, someone who could bridge the gap between wildlife protection and behavioral research. Her daily patrols now included detailed observations of animal problem-solving patterns, social interactions, and learning behaviors. The knowledge she gathered helped shape new approaches to wildlife management that respected and worked with animal intelligence rather than against it. The station's medical facility had pioneered new treatment protocols based on their enhanced understanding of wildlife cognition. Injured animals were no longer simply treated and released. Instead, they received cognitive rehabilitation alongside physical healing. The results were remarkable. Animals treated under these new protocols showed significantly higher survival rates and better reintegration into their natural habitats. One particularly intriguing case involved a young wolf that had arrived at the station with a severely injured leg. Traditional treatment would have focused solely on the physical injury, but under the new protocols, the wolf received environmental enrichment, and problem-solving challenges as part of its recovery. The animal not only healed physically, but demonstrated remarkable adaptability in developing new hunting strategies to compensate for its slightly weakened leg. The station's research had begun to reveal patterns of intergenerational learning among wildlife that challenged conventional understanding. Through careful documentation, they observed how parent animals taught their offspring not just basic survival skills, but sophisticated problem-solving strategies and human avoidance techniques. This transfer of knowledge suggested a level of cultural learning previously thought impossible in wild animals. Conservation Officer Tom Wilson's continuing investigation into wildlife trafficking had unveiled a disturbing trend. Criminal networks were specifically targeting animals that displayed higher intelligence, believing them to be more valuable for private collections. The discovery led to the development of new protection strategies that took into account the cognitive capabilities of vulnerable species. EcoStation's success had attracted attention from wildlife preserves around the world. Sarah found herself hosting delegations from various countries, sharing their methodologies and findings. Each visitor brought new perspectives and questions, contributing to an ever-expanding understanding of wildlife intelligence. The station had become a global hub for a new approach to conservation that recognized and protected animal cognitive capabilities. The autumn weather brought new challenges and opportunities for research. As animals prepared for winter, the station documented complex planning behaviors that went far beyond simple instinct. They observed animals creating food caches with sophisticated organization, developing cooperative strategies for resource sharing, and teaching these skills to younger generations. Dr. Parker's team made a breakthrough in understanding interspecies communication. They discovered that different species around EcoStation had developed a sophisticated system of sharing information about human activities and potential threats. This network of communication demonstrated levels of cooperation and information sharing that defied traditional wildlife behavior models. The station's success in rehabilitation led to the development of what they called cognitive release protocols, methods for returning treated animals to the wild that took into account their learned behaviors and intelligence. These protocols recognized that rehabilitated animals had developed new understanding of human interactions that needed to be carefully managed during their release. Sarah's observations had led to another significant discovery. Animals that had been treated at EcoStation appeared to pass information about the facility to others of their species. They documented multiple cases of injured animals being deliberately guided to the station by others, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of human assistance that spread through wildlife populations. The autumn days grew shorter, but the pace of discovery at EcoStation never slowed. Each day brought new insights into the remarkable capabilities of the creatures they studied. The team developed new observation techniques that allowed them to document subtle behaviors that might otherwise have gone unnoticed, revealing layers of complexity in wildlife intelligence that challenged existing theories. One morning, while reviewing overnight footage, Sarah noticed something extraordinary. A group of ravens, known for their intelligence, had begun exhibiting behavior that suggested they understood the purpose of the station's research equipment. The birds would actively clear branches that blocked camera views and appeared to deliberately perform problem-solving behaviors within view of observation posts. The station's research library had grown into a comprehensive database of wildlife. Cognitive behavior. Researchers spent hours analyzing patterns and connections, finding new evidence of intelligence in species that had previously been considered purely instinct-driven. The work challenged fundamental assumptions about the divide between human and animal intelligence. As winter approached, EcoStation prepared for a new phase of research. The changing seasons provided opportunities to study how wildlife adapted their behavior to environmental challenges. The team documented sophisticated decision-making processes as animals prepared for winter, showing planning and forethought that went far beyond simple seasonal instincts. Dr. Parker's latest paper proposed a revolutionary theory about wildlife: intelligence networks, the idea that knowledge and problem-solving strategies could spread through animal populations in ways similar to human cultural transmission. The evidence from ecostations supported this theory, showing how innovative behaviors could be passed between individuals and even between species. The station's work had begun to influence wildlife management policies across North America. Traditional approaches focused on controlling animal behavior were being replaced by methods that worked with wildlife intelligence, recognizing animals as thinking beings capable of learning and adaptation. Ecostations protocols became models for a new generation of wildlife management strategies. Sarah's evening patrols now included monitoring what they called intelligence hotspots, areas where multiple species demonstrated elevated problem-solving behaviors. These locations seemed to foster increased cognitive development, suggesting that environmental factors played a crucial role in the expression of wildlife intelligence. The station's medical team had developed new ways to assess cognitive function in injured animals, allowing them to better understand how trauma affected wildlife intelligence. Their findings suggested that animals possessed sophisticated emotional processing capabilities that influenced their recovery and behavior patterns. As autumn deepened, ecostations' influence continued to grow. Their work had implications beyond wildlife management, touching on fundamental questions about consciousness, intelligence, and the relationship between humans and the natural world. Each new discovery added depth to their understanding of the extraordinary capabilities of wild animals. The transformation of Echo Station from a simple ranger outpost to a world-renowned research facility reflected a broader shift in how humans understood and interacted with wildlife. The animals they studied were no longer seen as purely instinct-driven creatures, but as thinking, feeling beings capable of complex decision-making and emotional processing. Sarah often found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. The desperate bear who had sought human help had opened their eyes to possibilities they had never considered, leading to discoveries that changed how they viewed wildlife. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that had always existed in the wild, waiting to be recognized and understood. The approaching winter would bring new challenges and opportunities for research. As the forest prepared for the cold months ahead, Echo Station stood ready to continue its mission of understanding and protecting the extraordinary creatures who shared their wilderness home. The work they did here would influence generations of wildlife research, creating a legacy of understanding and respect for the hidden depths of animal intelligence. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows through the autumn forest. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of Echo Station had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought them closer to bridging the gap between human and animal intelligence, one discovery at a time. The first snowfall transformed Glacier Peak Wilderness into a pristine wonderland, blanketing Echo Station in hushed white silence. Sarah Thompson's footprints carved a solitary path through the fresh powder as she made her way to the newly constructed Wildlife Observation Center. The morning light painted the snow-covered peaks in shades of rose and gold, while beneath the surface of this serene scene, groundbreaking discoveries continued to unfold. Winter had brought unexpected opportunities for studying wildlife intelligence. The harsh conditions created natural problem-solving scenarios that pushed animals to demonstrate their cognitive abilities in new ways. Dr. Emily Parker's team documented remarkable instances of adaptive behavior as creatures large and small faced the challenges of survival in the cold months. The station's latest research focused on what they termed cognitive adaptation patterns, the ways in which wildlife modified their behavior based on accumulated knowledge and experience. Through careful observation, they discovered that animals weren't simply following instinctual winter survival strategies. They were actively learning and adjusting their approaches based on changing conditions. A family of mountain goats near the station had captured the research team's attention. The group's matriarch displayed remarkable problem-solving abilities in leading her herd through the winter landscape. She had developed a sophisticated understanding of the station's presence, using the cleared paths and structures as landmarks for navigation while maintaining a safe distance. More impressively, she appeared to be actively teaching these navigation skills to younger members of the herd. The station's thermal imaging equipment revealed fascinating nighttime activities around the research facility. Animals had begun using the residual warmth from the station's sustainable heating system in innovative ways. Rather than avoiding human structures as expected, they had learned to incorporate these features into their winter survival strategies while still maintaining their wild nature. Dr. Parker's team made a breakthrough in understanding wildlife communication during extreme weather conditions. They observed complex signaling systems between different species, warning each other about dangerous ice formations and unstable snow conditions. This interspecies cooperation suggested levels of social intelligence that challenged traditional scientific understanding. The winter months brought new visitors to Echo Station. Wildlife researchers from Arctic regions arrived to share their observations of similar intelligent behaviors in their local species. The exchange of information revealed patterns of wildlife adaptation and learning that spanned continents, suggesting a universal capacity for advanced cognitive development in wild animals. Sarah's role expanded to include studying what they called weather-induced intelligence markers, specific behaviors that demonstrated advanced problem-solving skills during challenging weather conditions. She documented cases of animals creating temporary shelters, developing cooperative hunting strategies, and sharing resources in ways that showed remarkable foresight and planning. The station's rehabilitation facility faced unique challenges during the winter months. Injured animals required not only physical healing, but also cognitive rehabilitation that would prepare them for survival in harsh conditions. The team developed new protocols that incorporated problem-solving exercises specifically designed for winter survival skills. One particularly fascinating case involved a young lynx brought to the station with a minor injury. During its rehabilitation, the animal demonstrated extraordinary adaptive intelligence, learning to use the facility's features in unexpected ways. It developed techniques for catching prey that compensated for its temporary disability, showing remarkable creativity in its approach to hunting. The station's ongoing research into wildlife trafficking prevention took on new urgency during the winter months. The harsh conditions made animals more vulnerable to poachers, but also provided opportunities to study how wildlife adapted their defensive strategies. The team observed animals developing sophisticated methods of avoiding human traps while still accessing necessary resources. Echo Station's influence continued to grow within the scientific community. The winter research program attracted specialists in animal cognition from diverse fields, including marine biology and behavioral psychology. The cross-disciplinary approach led to new insights into the nature of intelligence itself, challenging the traditional boundaries between human and animal cognitive capabilities. The station's advanced monitoring systems captured remarkable instances of animals teaching survival skills to their young. Parent animals weren't simply demonstrating behaviors, they were actively correcting mistakes and reinforcing successful strategies, showing a level of instructional ability previously thought impossible in wild creatures. Dr. Parker's latest research focused on what she termed environmental intelligence networks, the ways in which different species shared and processed information about their environment. The winter conditions made these networks more visible as animals cooperated to locate resources and avoid dangers in the challenging landscape. The station's medical team discovered that animals with previous experience of human assistance showed unique patterns of behavior during rehabilitation. These creatures demonstrated an understanding of medical treatment procedures and often actively cooperated with their care, suggesting a sophisticated grasp of cause and effect relationships. Sarah spent long hours observing what the team called adaptation zones, areas where multiple species demonstrated accelerated learning and problem-solving abilities. These zones often coincided with locations where different ecosystems overlapped, suggesting that environmental complexity might drive cognitive development in wildlife. The winter brought new evidence of sophisticated social structures among the local wildlife. Animals that typically lived solitary lives began forming temporary alliances, sharing resources and information in ways that demonstrated remarkable social intelligence. These temporary communities showed complex decision-making processes that went far beyond simple survival instincts. EcoStation's research began to reveal patterns of cultural transmission among wildlife populations. Knowledge about safe routes, food sources, and survival strategies passed not only between generations, but also between different species, creating a complex web of shared intelligence that enhanced survival chances for all. The station's work with thermal imaging technology led to the discovery of what they called thermal intelligence, the ability of animals to understand and utilize temperature variations in their environment. This understanding went beyond simple warmth-seeking behavior, showing sophisticated planning and resource management. A series of winter storms provided opportunities to study wildlife response to extreme conditions. The team documented cases of animals creating emergency shelters, developing alternative food-finding strategies, and establishing temporary territories that demonstrated remarkable adaptability and intelligence. The station's continuing study of interspecies communication revealed new layers of complexity. Animals weren't just warning each other about immediate dangers, they were sharing information about longer-term challenges and opportunities, showing an understanding of future conditions that suggested advanced cognitive processing. Dr. Parker's team made significant progress in understanding the role of play behavior in wildlife intelligence development. Even in harsh winter conditions, animals engaged in activities that appeared to serve no immediate survival purpose but contributed to cognitive development and social bonding. The winter months brought unexpected discoveries about wildlife memory and learning. Animals that had encountered the station in previous winters showed sophisticated recognition patterns, remembering safe routes and beneficial locations with remarkable accuracy. This long-term memory capability suggested cognitive abilities, far beyond what was previously attributed to wild animals. EcoStation's work began to influence wildlife protection strategies across North America. Their research demonstrated that effective conservation required understanding and working with animal intelligence rather than treating wildlife as simple, instinct-driven creatures. The station's rehabilitation protocols continued to evolve, based on new understandings of wildlife cognitive abilities. Treatment plans now included cognitive enrichment activities specific to each species, recognizing that mental stimulation played a crucial role in successful recovery and release. Throughout the winter, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals adapting human-made structures and materials for their own purposes. These adaptations showed remarkable creativity and problem-solving abilities, suggesting that wildlife possess significant capacity for innovation and tool use. The station's research into wildlife intelligence networks revealed sophisticated patterns of information sharing between different animal communities. Knowledge about food sources, safe routes, and potential dangers spread through these networks with remarkable efficiency, showing advanced social learning capabilities. As winter deepened, EcoStation's work continued to challenge traditional understanding of wildlife behavior. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, waiting to be recognized and understood by those willing to look beyond conventional wisdom. The winter landscape around EcoStation became a living laboratory for studying wildlife adaptation and intelligence. The harsh conditions created natural experiments that revealed the extraordinary cognitive capabilities of the creatures who called this wilderness home. The sun set over the snow-covered peaks, casting long shadows across the pristine landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of EcoStation had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The winter stars emerged above Glacier Peak Wilderness, twinkling in the crystal-clear mountain air. Below, the lights of EcoStation glowed softly, a beacon of discovery in the vast wilderness. The work conducted here would continue to reshape our understanding of wildlife intelligence, creating a legacy of knowledge that would influence generations to come. Spring arrived in Glacier Peak Wilderness with a symphony of renewal. The station's advanced monitoring systems captured fascinating instances of animals using tools to access newly available spring resources. These observations challenged traditional definitions of tool use in wildlife, suggesting that many species possessed untapped potential for creative problem-solving. Dr. Parker's team made breakthrough discoveries about wildlife emotional intelligence during the spring season. They observed complex social interactions that showed evidence of empathy, cooperation, and emotional support between different species, particularly during challenging transitions in weather and resource availability. The station's rehabilitation protocols evolved to incorporate new understanding of how animals processed and retained information during recovery. Treatment plans now included specialized cognitive exercises designed to maintain mental acuity alongside physical healing, leading to more successful reintegration into the wild. EcoStation's research began revealing patterns of cultural learning among wildlife populations that challenged conventional scientific understanding. Animals weren't just passing down instinctual behaviors, they were actively teaching adaptive strategies that helped their offspring navigate an ever-changing environment. The spring renewal brought opportunities to study how animals transmitted knowledge about human activities to their young. Parent animals showed remarkable sophistication in teaching their offspring to distinguish between different types of human behavior, demonstrating complex risk assessment capabilities. The station's ongoing investigation into wildlife trafficking prevention benefited from new insights into animal intelligence. Understanding how wildlife adapted to and avoided human threats helped develop more effective protection strategies that worked with, rather than against, animals' natural cognitive abilities. Sarah spent increasing time observing what the team called learning zones, areas where multiple species gathered to practice new skills and share information. These locations seemed to serve as natural classrooms, where animals of different species engaged in both teaching and learning behaviors. The station's work with thermal imaging technology revealed interesting patterns in how animals adapted. their behavior to changing spring temperatures. Their responses showed evidence of planned adaptation rather than simple reaction, suggesting sophisticated understanding of environmental patterns. Dr. Parker's latest research paper proposed revolutionary ideas about wildlife social structures during seasonal transitions. The team observed complex hierarchies of knowledge sharing, where more experienced animals took on teaching roles for younger or less experienced members of their species. The station's continuing study of interspecies communication revealed new layers of complexity in how animals shared information about environmental changes. Different species developed sophisticated systems for warning each other about potential dangers and sharing information about new resources. Echo Station's rehabilitation facility made significant progress in understanding how injured animals maintained their cognitive abilities during recovery. The team developed new approaches that encouraged natural problem-solving behaviors while providing necessary medical care. The spring season brought new evidence of sophisticated planning abilities in wildlife populations. Animals demonstrated remarkable foresight in preparing for changing conditions, showing understanding of cause and effect relationships that went far beyond simple instinct. The station's research into wildlife intelligence networks revealed how animals adapted their communication strategies during seasonal transitions. These adaptations showed evidence of flexible thinking and creative problem-solving that challenged traditional views of wildlife behavior. Throughout the spring, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals teaching specific skills to their offspring. These teaching sessions showed clear evidence of planned instruction, with parent animals actively correcting mistakes and reinforcing successful behaviors. The station's work continued to influence wildlife protection strategies across North America. Their research demonstrated the importance of understanding and working with animal intelligence in developing effective conservation measures. As spring progressed, Echo Station's discoveries continued to reshape understanding of wildlife behavior. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, waiting to be recognized and understood by those willing to look beyond conventional wisdom. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the awakening landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of Echo Station had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, Echo Station stood as a beacon of discovery in the vast wilderness, its work continuing to reshape our understanding of wildlife, intelligence, and create a legacy of knowledge for generations to come. Midsummer heat shimmered above Glacier Peak Wilderness as dawn painted the mountain peaks in soft rose gold. Echo Station bustled with activity as researchers prepared for another day of groundbreaking discoveries. Sarah Thompson adjusted her wide-brimmed hat against the morning sun, her experienced gaze scanning the surrounding meadows where wildflowers nodded in the gentle breeze. The changing seasons had brought new dimensions to their understanding of wildlife intelligence. The summer research program focused on what Dr. Emily Parker termed social learning networks in wildlife populations. The longer daylight hours provided extended observation periods, revealing intricate patterns of knowledge sharing between different species. The team documented remarkable instances of animals teaching specific skills to others outside their immediate family groups, suggesting sophisticated systems of information transfer. A unique phenomenon caught the researchers' attention. Several species had begun using the natural amphitheater-like formations near the station as gathering places. These locations became hubs of activity where younger animals observed and learned from more experienced ones. The behavior suggested organized learning sessions that went far beyond simple mimicry. The station's advanced audio recording equipment captured fascinating evidence of complex communication patterns. Different species developed distinct vocalizations for specific situations, creating what appeared to be a shared language of warning. Calls, all clear signals and location markers. The sophistication of these communication systems challenged existing theories about wildlife cognitive capabilities. Sarah's field observations revealed what the team called mentorship bonds, forming between older and younger animals across species boundaries. Experienced creatures actively guided younger ones through challenging situations, showing patience and deliberate teaching methods that displayed remarkable emotional intelligence. Echo Station's medical facility made breakthrough discoveries about wildlife rehabilitation during the summer months. Animals recovering from injuries displayed advanced problem-solving abilities, developing creative ways to adapt to temporary disabilities. Their solutions showed evidence of planned thinking rather than simple trial and error. Dr. Parker's latest research explored the concept of environmental awareness networks, systems through which different species shared information about changes in their habitat. The summer drought conditions provided opportunities to observe how animals communicated about water sources and adapted their behavior collectively to conserve resources. The station's ongoing study of wildlife intelligence revealed sophisticated decision-making processes in group situations. Animals demonstrated the ability to weigh multiple factors, consider long-term consequences, and adjust their strategies based on changing conditions. These observations suggested levels of cognitive processing previously thought impossible in wild creatures. A family of ravens near the station displayed remarkable tool-using abilities that caught the researchers' attention. The birds not only created and modified tools for specific purposes, but appeared to be teaching these skills to others, showing evidence of cultural transmission of knowledge within their species. The summer heat brought new challenges that pushed wildlife to demonstrate advanced problem-solving capabilities. The team observed animals developing innovative methods to keep cool, access water, and protect their young. These adaptations showed clear evidence of planned thinking and creative solution finding. Echo Station's influence in the scientific community continued to grow as their summer research program revealed new dimensions of wildlife intelligence. Their work challenged traditional boundaries between instinct and learned behavior, suggesting that many species possessed untapped potential for cognitive development. Sarah's expanded role included studying what they termed innovation clusters, locations where multiple species demonstrated accelerated learning and problem-solving abilities. These areas seemed to foster increased cognitive development, suggesting that environmental factors played crucial roles in expressing wildlife intelligence. The station's rehabilitation protocols evolved to incorporate new understanding of how animals processed and retained information during recovery. Treatment plans now included specialized cognitive exercises designed to maintain mental acuity, alongside physical healing, leading to more successful reintegration into the wild. Dr. Parker's team made significant progress in understanding the role of play behavior in wildlife intelligence development. They observed complex play patterns that served as teaching tools, allowing younger animals to develop problem-solving skills in safe, controlled situations. The station's advanced monitoring systems captured fascinating instances of animals using natural features as landmarks and teaching aids. These observations suggested sophisticated spatial awareness and the ability to create mental maps of their environment. EcoStation's research began revealing patterns of emotional intelligence in wildlife that challenged conventional understanding. Animals displayed complex emotional responses to situations, showing evidence of empathy, grief, joy, and curiosity in ways that suggested deep emotional processing capabilities. The summer season brought opportunities to study how animals adapted their behavior in response to human presence. The team observed sophisticated risk assessment strategies being taught between different species, showing evidence of shared learning about human activities. Sarah spent increasing time documenting what they called intelligence transmission zones, areas where different species gathered to share information about environmental changes. These locations became natural classrooms where knowledge was exchanged across species boundaries. The station's ongoing investigation into wildlife trafficking prevention benefited from new insights into animal intelligence. Understanding how animals learn to avoid human threats helped develop more effective protection strategies that worked with their natural cognitive abilities. Dr. Parker's latest research paper proposed revolutionary ideas about wildlife social structures during periods of environmental stress. The team observed complex hierarchies of knowledge sharing, where more experienced animals took on teaching roles for younger or less experienced members of their species. The station's continuing study of interspecies communication revealed new layers of complexity in how animals shared information about environmental changes. Different species developed sophisticated systems for warning each other about potential dangers and sharing information about new resources. EcoStation's rehabilitation facility made significant progress in understanding how injured animals maintained their cognitive abilities during recovery. The team developed new approaches that encouraged natural problem-solving behaviors while providing necessary medical care. The summer season brought new evidence of sophisticated planning abilities in wildlife populations. Animals demonstrated remarkable foresight in preparing for changing conditions, showing understanding of cause and effect relationships that went far beyond simple instinct. The station's research into wildlife intelligence networks revealed how animals adapted their communication strategies during seasonal transitions. These adaptations showed evidence of flexible thinking and creative problem-solving that challenged traditional views of wildlife behavior. Throughout the summer, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals teaching specific skills to their offspring. These teaching sessions showed clear evidence of planned instruction, with parent animals actively correcting mistakes and reinforcing successful behaviors. The station's work continued to influence wildlife protection strategies across North America. Their research demonstrated the importance of understanding and working with animal intelligence in developing effective conservation measures. As summer progressed, EcoStation's discoveries continued to reshape understanding of wildlife behavior. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, waiting to be recognized and understood by those willing to look beyond conventional wisdom. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of EcoStation had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of discovery in the vast wilderness, its work continuing to reshape our understanding of wildlife intelligence and create a legacy of knowledge for generations to come. Late summer brought an international dimension to EcoStation's groundbreaking work. Researchers from across The globe gathered at the remote facility, transforming the modest ranger station into a hub of worldwide wildlife intelligence studies. Sarah Thompson welcomed a team of visiting scientists from Japan, their arrival marking the beginning of a new chapter in understanding animal cognition. The Japanese researchers brought sophisticated behavioral mapping technology that revealed previously undetected patterns in wildlife social structures. Their equipment captured subtle interactions between different species, showing how animals coordinated their activities across vast territories through complex communication networks. Dr. Emily Parker collaborated with visiting ethologists to develop what they called the Universal Intelligence Framework, a revolutionary approach to studying wildlife cognitive abilities across different ecosystems and species. The framework challenged traditional classifications of animal intelligence, suggesting that cognitive capabilities existed on a fluid spectrum rather than rigid categories. The station's expanded research program discovered fascinating parallels between wildlife behavior patterns in different parts of the world. Animals in the Glacier Peak Wilderness displayed problem-solving strategies remarkably similar to those observed in other remote locations, suggesting universal aspects of wildlife intelligence that transcended geographical boundaries. Sarah's role evolved to include coordinating international research efforts, as her unique experience with wildlife intelligence made her an invaluable bridge between different scientific approaches. Her field observations helped identify what the team termed cognitive convergence zones, areas where multiple species demonstrated accelerated learning and adaptation. The station's medical facility pioneered new rehabilitation techniques based on insights gained from global research. By incorporating successful methods from wildlife centers worldwide, they developed more effective approaches to treating injured animals while maintaining their natural cognitive abilities. A breakthrough came when the team documented what appeared to be intentional teaching behavior among a group of mountain goats. The lead female systematically demonstrated complex navigation techniques to younger members, showing patience and adaptability in her teaching methods that mirrored educational practices observed in primates. EcoStation's advanced monitoring systems, enhanced by international contributions, revealed intricate patterns of nocturnal learning behavior. Animals used the cover of darkness to conduct what appeared to be structured learning sessions, with experienced individuals guiding others through complex tasks. The research team made significant progress in understanding how animals processed and shared information about environmental changes. Through careful observation, they discovered that wildlife possessed sophisticated systems for transmitting knowledge about seasonal patterns, weather conditions, and potential threats. Dr. Parker's collaboration with international colleagues led to the identification of what they called intelligence triggers, specific environmental conditions that appeared to stimulate accelerated cognitive development in wildlife populations. These findings suggested that animal intelligence was more adaptable and responsive to environmental factors than previously believed. The station's ongoing work in wildlife trafficking prevention benefited from global perspectives on animal behavior. Researchers discovered that animals in different parts of the world had developed similar strategies for avoiding human threats, suggesting an underlying intelligence that transcended learned behaviors. EcoStation's rehabilitation protocols evolved to incorporate insights from traditional ecological knowledge shared by indigenous peoples from various regions. This integration of scientific research with generational wisdom provided new understanding of how animals learned and adapted to changing environments. The international team documented remarkable instances of interspecies cooperation that challenged existing theories about wildlife behavior. Different species worked together in sophisticated ways, sharing resources and information through complex social networks that showed evidence of planned collaboration. Sarah's field studies revealed what the team called adaptive learning clusters, locations where multiple species gathered to share information and practice new skills. These natural learning centers seem to play crucial roles in the transmission of knowledge within wildlife communities. The station's research into wildlife intelligence networks expanded to include comparative studies with similar phenomena observed in other parts of the world. The findings suggested that animals possessed universal capabilities for complex social, learning and information sharing. Dr. Parker's latest research focused on what she termed cognitive resilience patterns, the ways in which animals maintained and adapted their intelligence in response to environmental challenges. The team observed sophisticated problem-solving strategies that showed evidence of planned thinking and creative adaptation. EcoStation's work began attracting attention from conservation organizations worldwide. Their findings about wildlife intelligence had profound implications for habitat protection and species preservation, suggesting that effective conservation required understanding and supporting animals' natural learning processes. The station's continuing study of interspecies communication revealed new dimensions of complexity in how animals shared information. Different species developed sophisticated systems for conveying messages about environmental conditions, showing evidence of abstract thinking and planned communication. Throughout the late summer, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals adapting their behavior in response to human presence. These adaptations showed remarkable sophistication, with creatures developing complex strategies for maintaining their territories while avoiding human conflict. The research team made breakthrough discoveries about wildlife emotional intelligence. Animals displayed complex emotional responses to situations, showing evidence of empathy, social bonding, and emotional learning that suggested deep psychological processing capabilities. EcoStation's influence continued to grow as their findings challenged traditional understanding of wildlife behavior. Their work suggested that many species possessed untapped potential for cognitive development and social learning that had previously gone unrecognized. The station's advanced monitoring systems captured fascinating instances of animals using natural features as teaching tools. These observations suggested sophisticated spatial awareness and the ability to create and share mental maps of their environment. Dr. Parker's team made significant progress in understanding how animals transmitted knowledge between generations. They observed complex teaching behaviors that showed evidence of planned instruction and deliberate knowledge transfer. The station's work with thermal imaging technology revealed interesting patterns in how animals adapted their behavior to environmental changes. Their responses showed evidence of sophisticated decision-making processes rather than simple instinctual reactions. EcoStation's research began revealing patterns of cultural learning among wildlife populations that challenged conventional scientific understanding. Animals weren't just passing down instinctual behaviors, they were actively teaching adaptive strategies that helped their offspring navigate an ever-changing environment. The late summer season brought opportunities to study how animals transmitted knowledge about human activities to their young. Parent animals showed remarkable sophistication in teaching their offspring to distinguish between different types of human behavior, demonstrating complex risk assessment capabilities. Throughout the research period, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals developing innovative solutions to environmental challenges. These adaptations showed clear evidence of creative thinking and problem-solving abilities that went far beyond simple instinct. The station's work continued to influence wildlife protection strategies globally. Their research demonstrated the importance of understanding and working with animal intelligence in developing effective conservation measures that respected and supported natural learning processes. As the International Research Initiative continued, EcoStation's discoveries reshaped understanding of wildlife behavior. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, waiting to be recognized and understood by those willing to look beyond conventional wisdom. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of EcoStation had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of discovery in the vast wilderness, its work continuing to reshape our understanding of wildlife intelligence and create a legacy of knowledge that transcended national boundaries and cultural differences. Early autumn painted Glacier Peak Wilderness in rich amber hues as EcoStation unveiled its newest technological advancement, a revolutionary wildlife monitoring system that promised to transform their understanding of animal intelligence. Sarah Thompson stood in the newly constructed control room, surrounded by high-resolution displays showing real-time footage from hundreds of carefully concealed cameras throughout the surrounding forest. The groundbreaking monitoring network, developed in collaboration with leading technology institutes, utilized artificial intelligence to identify and track individual animals while documenting their problem-solving behaviors. This sophisticated system could detect subtle patterns in wildlife activity that human observers might miss, revealing previously unknown dimensions of animal cognition. Dr. Emily Parker worked alongside computer scientists to analyze the massive amounts of data flowing into the station. Their preliminary findings suggested that wildlife possessed far more sophisticated decision-making capabilities than previously imagined. Animals demonstrated the ability to plan complex sequences of actions, showing evidence of forward thinking and strategic planning. The new technology captured remarkable footage of what the team termed knowledge exchange sessions among different species. In one particularly fascinating sequence, a group of younger animals gathered around an experienced elk as it demonstrated techniques for accessing difficult-to-reach food sources. The structured nature of these interactions suggested organized learning rather than random mimicry. Sarah's expertise proved invaluable in interpreting the technology's findings. Her years of field experience helped the team distinguish between genuine instances of intelligent behavior and simple, instinctual responses. Her insights led to the development of more refined observation protocols that better captured evidence of cognitive processing in wildlife. The station's medical facility integrated cutting-edge biomonitoring devices into their rehabilitation program. These tools provided unprecedented insight into how animals' brains processed information during problem-solving tasks, revealing complex neural patterns that challenged existing theories about wildlife intelligence. A breakthrough came when the team documented what appeared to be intentional information sharing between different species during challenging environmental conditions. The footage showed animals actively working together to overcome obstacles, displaying levels of cooperation that suggested sophisticated social understanding. EcoStation's expanded research capabilities attracted attention from leading cognitive scientists worldwide. The ability to gather detailed, long-term data about wildlife behavior in natural settings opened new avenues for understanding the evolution of intelligence itself. The station's advanced audio analysis system revealed intricate patterns in animal vocalizations that suggested a form of proto-language. Different species used specific sound combinations to convey complex messages about environmental conditions, resource locations, and potential threats. Dr. Parker's team made significant progress in understanding how animals processed spatial information. The new monitoring system captured evidence of creatures creating and sharing mental maps of their territory, showing sophisticated spatial awareness and planning capabilities. The research facility's thermal imaging technology provided insight into nighttime learning behaviors. Animals used the cover of darkness for what appeared to be structured teaching sessions, with experienced individuals guiding others through complex tasks under the protection of low-light conditions. Echo stations' work in wildlife rehabilitation benefited enormously from the new technology. Detailed monitoring of recovering animals revealed sophisticated adaptation strategies as they developed alternative methods for performing tasks while healing from injuries. The station's ongoing study of interspecies communication uncovered evidence of what researchers termed information networks, complex systems through which different species shared knowledge about environmental changes and potential threats. These networks showed remarkable sophistication in their organization and effectiveness. Sarah's field observations, enhanced by the new technology, revealed patterns of behavior that suggested long-term planning capabilities in wildlife. Animals demonstrated the ability to prepare for future challenges, showing evidence of temporal understanding previously thought impossible in non-human species. The research team made breakthrough discoveries about wildlife emotional intelligence using advanced behavioral analysis software. The technology detected subtle patterns in animal interactions that indicated complex emotional processing and social awareness. Dr. Parker's latest research focused on what she called adaptive intelligence clusters, locations where multiple species demonstrated accelerated learning and problem-solving abilities. The new monitoring system helped identify these areas and document the unique conditions that fostered enhanced cognitive development. Echo stations' influence in the scientific community grew as their technological capabilities expanded. Their ability to gather and analyze massive amounts of behavioral data provided unprecedented insight into wildlife intelligence and social structures. The station's continuing work in wildlife protection benefited from improved understanding of animal cognitive capabilities. The research team developed more effective conservation strategies based on their enhanced knowledge of how wildlife processed and responded to environmental challenges. Throughout the autumn season, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals using tools and solving complex problems. The high-resolution monitoring system captured detailed footage of these behaviors, providing clear evidence of sophisticated cognitive processing in various species. The research facility's expanded capabilities allowed for more detailed study of how animals transmitted knowledge between generations. The team observed complex teaching behaviors that showed evidence of planned instruction and deliberate knowledge transfer. Echo stations' work began revealing patterns of cultural learning among wildlife populations that challenged conventional scientific understanding. Animals demonstrated the ability to pass on learned behaviors and problem-solving strategies through sophisticated social networks. The station's advanced monitoring systems captured fascinating instances of animals adapting their behavior in response to human presence. These adaptations showed remarkable sophistication, with creatures developing complex strategies for maintaining their territories while avoiding human conflict. Dr. Parker's team made significant progress in understanding how animals processed and shared information about environmental changes. Through careful analysis of behavioral patterns, they discovered that wildlife possessed sophisticated systems for transmitting knowledge about seasonal patterns and weather conditions. The research facility's new technology revealed interesting patterns in how animals adapted their behavior to environmental challenges. Their responses showed evidence of sophisticated decision-making processes rather than simple, instinctual reactions. EcoStation's expanded research capabilities provided new insight into wildlife emotional intelligence. Animals displayed complex, emotional responses to situations, showing evidence of empathy, social bonding, and emotional learning that suggested deep psychological processing capabilities. The station's continuing study of interspecies communication revealed new dimensions of complexity in how animals shared information. Different species developed sophisticated systems for conveying messages about environmental conditions, showing evidence of abstract thinking and planned communication. Throughout the research period, Sarah documented numerous cases of animals developing innovative solutions to environmental challenges. These adaptations showed clear evidence of creative thinking and problem-solving abilities that went far beyond simple instinct. The station's work continued to influence wildlife protection strategies globally. Their research demonstrated the importance of understanding and working with animal intelligence in developing effective conservation measures that respected and supported natural learning processes. As EcoStation's technological capabilities expanded, their discoveries continued to reshape understanding of wildlife behavior. Each day brought new evidence of the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, waiting to be recognized and understood by those willing to look. Beyond conventional wisdom, the sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. The work of EcoStation had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of discovery in the vast wilderness. Its work continuing to reshape our understanding of wildlife intelligence through the power of advanced technology and careful observation. Crisp autumn winds swept through Glacier Peak Wilderness as EcoStation opened its doors to a new initiative. The facility launched its pioneering education program, welcoming students from local universities and indigenous communities to learn about wildlife intelligence. Sarah Thompson greeted the first group of eager participants in the station's newly constructed learning center, where live feeds from the surrounding forest provided real-time examples of animal cognitive behavior. The education initiative represented a fundamental shift in how wildlife research was shared with the broader community. Dr. Emily Parker designed an immersive curriculum that combined traditional ecological knowledge with cutting-edge scientific discoveries. Students witnessed firsthand how animals demonstrated complex problem-solving abilities and sophisticated social interactions. Local tribal elders brought generations of wisdom to the program, sharing insights about wildlife behavior that complemented the station's scientific findings. Their traditional knowledge often predicted patterns that the research team's advanced technology later confirmed, creating a powerful synthesis of ancient understanding and modern science. The station's community outreach extended beyond formal education. Weekly workshops allowed local residents to participate in wildlife observation sessions, teaching them to recognize signs of animal intelligence in their own backyards. These citizen science initiatives contributed valuable data to the station's research, while fostering a deeper connection between people and wildlife. Sarah developed specialized training programs for regional park rangers and wildlife officers, sharing techniques for identifying and documenting intelligent behavior in wild animals. This network of trained observers expanded the scope of their research, creating a wider understanding of wildlife cognitive capabilities across different habitats. The research facility's innovative approach attracted attention from environmental educators worldwide. EcoStation became a model for teaching about wildlife intelligence, demonstrating how scientific research could be made accessible and engaging for diverse audiences. Dr. Parker's team documented remarkable instances of public engagement influencing research directions. Community observations often led to new discoveries about wildlife behavior, proving that citizen scientists could make valuable contributions to understanding animal intelligence. EcoStation's educational programs revealed unexpected benefits for wildlife rehabilitation. As local communities learned to recognize signs of animal intelligence, they became more invested in conservation efforts and more likely to report injured wildlife promptly for treatment. The station's work with school groups produced fascinating insights into how children naturally recognized and responded to signs of animal intelligence. Young observers often noticed subtle behaviors that even experienced researchers had overlooked, bringing fresh perspectives to the study of wildlife. Cognition. Sarah's field training sessions became popular events that brought together diverse groups of learners. Professional wildlife photographers, amateur naturalists, and academic researchers worked alongside local community members, creating a rich environment for sharing knowledge and observations. The research facility's educational outreach included innovative distance learning programs that shared EcoStation's discoveries with remote communities. Virtual observation sessions allowed participants worldwide to witness and learn about wildlife intelligence firsthand. Dr. Parker's team developed specialized curriculum materials that help teachers incorporate wildlife intelligence studies into their science programs. These resources emphasized the importance of observation skills and critical thinking in understanding animal behavior. EcoStation's community science initiatives revealed new patterns in wildlife adaptation to human presence. As more observers learned to document animal behavior properly, evidence mounted for sophisticated learning and problem-solving capabilities across various species. The station's work with indigenous youth programs produced valuable insights into traditional knowledge about animal intelligence. Young people brought together ancient wisdom and modern scientific methods, creating new ways of understanding wildlife behavior. Sarah's expertise in wildlife behavior became the foundation for a series of public lectures that challenged common misconceptions about animal intelligence. Her presentations combined scientific data with compelling stories of animal problem-solving, making complex concepts accessible to general audiences. The research facility's educational programs emphasize the importance of ethical wildlife observation. Participants learned to recognize and document intelligent behavior while maintaining appropriate distances and respecting animal territories. EcoStation's community outreach efforts led to increased local support for wildlife protection initiatives. As people gained deeper understanding of animal intelligence, they became more committed to preserving natural habitats and supporting conservation efforts. The station's work with professional photographers and filmmakers helped create compelling visual documentation of wildlife intelligence. These images and videos became powerful educational tools, helping people understand and appreciate the sophisticated capabilities of wild animals. Throughout the autumn season, Sarah conducted specialized training sessions for wildlife rehabilitation volunteers. These programs combine practical care techniques with understanding of animal cognitive needs, improving outcomes for injured wildlife. The research facility's educational initiatives revealed interesting patterns in how different age groups understood and responded to evidence of animal intelligence. Children often showed natural acceptance of sophisticated wildlife behavior, while adults sometimes needed to overcome preconceptions. Dr. Parker's team developed new methods for teaching about wildlife emotional intelligence. Through careful observation and documentation, they helped people recognize signs of complex emotional processing in animal behavior. EcoStation's community science programs contributed valuable data about wildlife adaptation to urban environments. Observers documented sophisticated problem-solving behaviors as animals learned to navigate human-modified landscapes. The station's educational outreach included specialized programs for artists and writers interested in wildlife behavior. These creative interpretations of animal intelligence helped communicate scientific concepts to broader audiences. Sarah's work with local conservation groups helped develop new approaches to wildlife protection based on understanding animal intelligence. These initiatives emphasized working with natural behavioral patterns rather than trying to control them. The research facilities programs for professional naturalists and tour guides helped improve the quality of wildlife education in the region. Operators learned to recognize and interpret signs of animal intelligence for their clients. EcoStations community involvement led to new discoveries about wildlife social structures. Local observers provided valuable insights into how animals maintain complex social networks across wide territories. The station's educational initiatives helped change public perception of wildlife intelligence. As people learned to recognize sophisticated animal behaviors, they developed greater respect for the cognitive capabilities of wild creatures. Dr. Parker's team created innovative ways to teach about interspecies communication. Their programs helped people understand the complex ways animals shared information about environmental conditions and potential threats. Sarah's field workshops revealed interesting patterns in how different cultural groups interpreted animal behavior. These diverse perspectives enriched the station's understanding of wildlife intelligence and adaptation. The research facilities' work with local schools inspired young people to pursue careers in wildlife science. Students witnessed firsthand the excitement of discovering new aspects of animal intelligence and behavior. EcoStation's community science programs contributed to long-term monitoring of wildlife adaptation. Observers documented how animals passed knowledge between generations and developed new survival strategies. The station's educational outreach included programs for senior citizens whose patient observation skills often led to valuable insights about wildlife behavior patterns. Their contributions highlighted the importance of diverse perspectives in understanding animal intelligence. As autumn progressed, EcoStation's influence continued to grow through its educational initiatives. Each program brought new observers and fresh perspectives to the study of wildlife intelligence, enriching understanding of these remarkable creatures. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the vibrant landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as another group of inspired learners departed the station, carrying with them new appreciation for the intelligence that existed in the natural world. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of discovery and education, its work continuing to bridge the gap between scientific research and public understanding of wildlife intelligence. Late autumn frost painted Glacier Peak Wilderness in crystalline white as EcoStation prepared to host an unprecedented gathering of wildlife policymakers and conservation leaders. Sarah Thompson surveyed the newly expanded conference facility, where representatives from wildlife management agencies across North America had assembled to discuss the revolutionary implications of their research on animal intelligence. The policy summit marked a turning point in wildlife conservation strategy. Dr. Emily Parker presented compelling evidence that traditional management approaches needed fundamental revision to account for the sophisticated cognitive abilities they had documented in wild animals. Her presentation included groundbreaking footage of complex problem-solving behaviors that challenged existing wildlife protection frameworks. State wildlife officials worked alongside eco-station researchers to develop new guidelines for protected wildlife corridors. These pathways would preserve not just animal migration routes, but also the sophisticated social networks through which wildlife shared knowledge and maintained cultural learning patterns. Sarah introduced innovative protocols for wildlife law enforcement based on their understanding of animal intelligence. These guidelines helped rangers and conservation officers recognize and protect areas where animals conducted teaching activities and maintained information exchange networks. The research facility's findings influenced legislative proposals for expanded wildlife protection. Lawmakers consulted with EcoStation's team to craft regulations that considered animals' cognitive needs alongside their physical habitat requirements. These new laws acknowledge the importance of preserving wildlife learning environments. Dr. Parker's team provided crucial testimony about wildlife intelligence during environmental impact assessments. Their research demonstrated how development projects could disrupt sophisticated animal social structures and learning networks, leading to more comprehensive evaluation requirements. EcoStation's work sparked renewed interest in traditional ecological knowledge about animal behavior. Conservation planners sought input from indigenous communities whose generations of observation aligned with the station's scientific findings about wildlife intelligence. The research facility's documentation of sophisticated wildlife communication systems led to new standards for noise pollution control in natural areas. Policymakers recognized the need to protect the complex audio environments through which animals shared vital information. Sarah's expertise helped shape new approaches to human-wildlife conflict resolution. Understanding animal intelligence allowed conservation officers to develop more effective strategies for maintaining peaceful coexistence between human communities and wildlife populations. The station's findings about wildlife emotional intelligence influenced animal welfare regulations. Treatment protocols for captured or injured animals now included consideration for their psychological needs and cognitive development. Dr. Parker's research contributed to revised standards for wildlife rehabilitation facilities nationwide. These new guidelines emphasize the importance of maintaining animals' natural learning abilities and social connections during treatment and recovery. EcoStation's work revolutionized approaches to wildlife corridor design. Conservation planners now considered how animals used these pathways for teaching and information sharing, not just physical migration. This understanding led to more effective protected area networks. The research facility's insights about wildlife adaptation capabilities influenced climate change response strategies. Conservation plans began incorporating support for animals' natural ability to learn and adjust to environmental changes. Sarah's field experience informed new guidelines for wilderness area management. These protocols helped preserve the natural conditions that fostered wildlife intelligence and social learning while maintaining appropriate access for human activities. The station's documentation of sophisticated wildlife behavior patterns led to stricter regulations against habitat fragmentation. Policymakers recognized the importance of maintaining connected areas where animals could maintain their complex social and learning networks. Dr. Parker's team developed new metrics for assessing ecosystem health based on wildlife cognitive behavior. These measurements provided more comprehensive understanding of habitat quality and environmental stress impacts. EcoStation's research influenced international wildlife trafficking prevention strategies. Understanding animal intelligence helped law enforcement agencies better protect vulnerable species and disrupt criminal networks targeting highly cognitive creatures. The research facility's work led to new standards for wildlife tourism operations. Tour operators learned to recognize and respect animals' learning activities, maintaining appropriate distances during teaching and information-sharing sessions. Sarah's observations helped develop more effective protocols for managing wildlife in urban interface areas. These guidelines helped communities maintain peaceful coexistence with animals while respecting their natural intelligence and adaptation abilities. The station's findings about wildlife problem-solving capabilities influenced disaster response planning. Emergency management teams incorporated understanding of animal intelligence into their strategies for protecting wildlife during natural disasters. Dr. Parker's research contributed to revised environmental education standards nationwide. School curricula began incorporating more sophisticated understanding of wildlife intelligence and behavior into science education programs. EcoStation's work reshaped approaches to invasive species management. Conservation teams developed strategies that worked with native animals' natural learning abilities to maintain ecosystem balance. The research facility's documentation of wildlife emotional intelligence led to new protocols for handling human-wildlife interactions. Park rangers and wildlife officers received training in recognizing and respecting animals' psychological needs. Sarah's expertise influenced policies for protected area expansion and management. Conservation planners learned to identify and preserve locations crucial for wildlife learning and information-sharing activities. The station's findings about wildlife adaptation capabilities shaped new approaches to habitat restoration. Projects now considered how to support animals' natural ability to learn and adjust to restored environments. Dr. Parker's team developed innovative methods for assessing wildlife stress responses to human activities. These insights led to more effective regulations for managing human presence in natural areas. EcoStation's research contributed to new standards for wildlife corridor connectivity. Conservation plans emphasized maintaining pathways that supported animals' social learning and knowledge-sharing networks. The research facility's work influenced policies for managing wildlife during climate change. Conservation strategies incorporated support for animals' natural ability to adapt and teach survival skills in changing conditions. Sarah's field experience shaped new approaches to wildlife protection enforcement. Rangers and conservation officers learned to recognize and protect animals' teaching and learning activities. The station's documentation of sophisticated wildlife behavior patterns led to enhanced habitat protection measures. Policymakers recognized the importance of preserving environments that supported animal intelligence and social learning. As autumn deepened into winter, EcoStation's influence continued to grow through policy changes and conservation initiatives. Each new regulation and guideline reflected deeper understanding of wildlife intelligence and the need to protect these remarkable creatures. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the frost-covered landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as policymakers departed with new appreciation for the sophisticated capabilities of wild animals. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of conservation reform, its work continuing to reshape how humans protected and preserved wildlife intelligence across the natural world. Winter's first heavy snow transformed Glacier Peak Wilderness into a pristine wonderland as EcoStation marked a milestone in wildlife research. Sarah Thompson stood at her familiar observation point, watching snowflakes dance in the morning light while reflecting on the extraordinary journey that had led to this moment. The desperate bear, who had once approached the station seeking help, had sparked a revolution in understanding wildlife intelligence. Dr. Emily Parker gathered the station's expanded research team in the main conference room, where displays showed live feeds from their network of observation points throughout the wilderness. A young bear, moving with remarkable purpose through the snowy landscape, caught everyone's attention. The animal's deliberate movements and problem-solving behavior demonstrated everything they had learned about wildlife intelligence. The morning's observation session revealed new dimensions of animal cognition. The team documented sophisticated cooperative hunting strategies among wolf packs, showing evidence of planned coordination and role assignment that went far beyond instinctual behavior. Each pack member demonstrated understanding of their specific responsibilities, adapting their actions based on changing conditions. Echo Station's latest findings challenged fundamental assumptions about wildlife capabilities. Their research revealed that animals possess not just intelligence, but wisdom, the ability to learn from experience, adapt to new situations, and pass knowledge to others. This understanding transformed approaches to wildlife conservation and protection. Sarah's expertise now extended beyond traditional ranger duties into the realm of cognitive wildlife studies. Her unique experience with animal intelligence made her a sought-after consultant for conservation projects worldwide. She helped other facilities recognize and protect the sophisticated learning networks that existed in wild populations. The station's rehabilitation center pioneered new approaches to treating injured wildlife. Understanding animals' cognitive needs alongside their physical injuries led to more successful recovery and release programs. Treated animals showed remarkable ability to maintain their natural intelligence while adapting to temporary disabilities. Dr. Parker's research team documented fascinating instances of wildlife adaptation to human presence. Animals demonstrated sophisticated understanding of human behavior patterns, developing complex strategies for maintaining their territories while avoiding conflict. These observations led to more effective conservation strategies. Echo Station's influence spread far beyond its remote location in the wilderness. Conservation organizations worldwide adopted their methods for studying and protecting wildlife intelligence. Their work sparked a fundamental shift in how humans understood and interacted with wild animals. The station's ongoing monitoring revealed intricate patterns of knowledge sharing between different species. Animals cooperated in sophisticated ways, passing information about environmental changes and potential threats through complex communication networks. This understanding revolutionized habitat protection strategies. Sarah's field observations contributed to growing evidence that wildlife possessed emotional intelligence comparable to that of many domestic animals. Creatures demonstrated empathy, grief, joy, and curiosity in ways that suggested deep emotional processing capabilities. The research facility's work influenced global conservation policies. Protected area designs now considered not just physical habitat requirements, but also the need to preserve environments where animals could maintain their teaching and learning activities. Dr. Parker's team made breakthrough discoveries about wildlife adaptation to climate change. Animals showed remarkable ability to learn and teach new survival strategies as environmental conditions shifted. This understanding shaped approaches to wildlife protection in changing ecosystems. Echo Station's success in rehabilitating injured wildlife drew attention from medical researchers studying animal cognition. Their methods demonstrated how supporting natural intelligence during recovery led to better outcomes for treated animals. The station's documentation of sophisticated wildlife behavior patterns led to stricter habitat protection measures. Conservation Planners recognize the need to preserve not just physical spaces, but also the complex social networks through which animals shared knowledge and maintained cultural learning. Sarah's expertise helped shape new approaches to wildlife management that respected animals' natural intelligence. Rather than trying to control wildlife behavior, conservation strategies now worked with animals' natural ability to learn and adapt. The research facility's findings about wildlife emotional intelligence influenced animal welfare regulations worldwide. Treatment protocols for captured or injured animals now included consideration for their psychological needs and cognitive development. Dr. Parker's work revealed fascinating patterns in how animals taught survival skills to their young. Parent creatures showed remarkable patience and adaptability in their teaching methods, adjusting their approach based on each learner's needs. EcoStation's research contributed to understanding how wildlife maintained complex social structures across large territories. Animals demonstrated sophisticated abilities to coordinate activities and share information through vast networks of communication. The station's work with advanced monitoring technology revealed new dimensions of wildlife intelligence. Animals showed remarkable ability to solve problems, plan ahead, and adapt their strategies based on changing conditions. Sarah's observations helped develop more effective approaches to human-wildlife conflict resolution. Understanding animal intelligence allowed conservation officers to work with wildlife's natural behavior patterns rather than against them. The research facility's documentation of wildlife learning capabilities influenced habitat restoration projects worldwide. Conservation teams now considered how to support animals' natural ability to adapt to and utilize restored environments. Dr. Parker's team made significant discoveries about wildlife response to environmental stress. Animals demonstrated remarkable resilience and creativity in developing new survival strategies when faced with challenging conditions. EcoStation's work reshaped understanding of wildlife social structures. Animals maintained sophisticated networks for sharing information and teaching survival skills, showing evidence of cultural learning previously thought impossible in wild creatures. The station's influence extended into public awareness of wildlife capabilities. Their work helped people recognize and respect the remarkable intelligence that existed in the natural world, leading to stronger support for conservation efforts. As winter deepened around EcoStation, Sarah reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this point. The desperate bear seeking human help had opened their eyes to possibilities they had never imagined, leading to discoveries that transformed understanding of wildlife intelligence. The sun set over Glacier Peak Wilderness, casting long shadows across the snow-covered landscape. In the gathering dusk, Sarah watched as animals moved through their evening routines, each displaying the unique intelligence that made them remarkable. EcoStation's work had only begun to scratch the surface of understanding wildlife cognition, but each day brought new insights into the extraordinary capabilities of these remarkable creatures. The evening stars emerged above the wilderness, twinkling in the clear mountain air. Below, EcoStation stood as a beacon of discovery, its work continuing to reshape understanding of wildlife intelligence and create a legacy of knowledge for generations to come. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.